The race gets underway. It's a pretty good start by Adam Parker. Good start too by James Delisle in the number 61 car from the second row of the grid. He's got through into second place. Carl Lindsay has dropped back to fourth or possibly even fifth position because the 95 car of Ben Siebold might just sneak that place away from him as they head into the banking for the first time. There's one of them a bit sideways though. That's Delisle. He's going to lose a position. I think that's Kai Lindsay going back through actually. Might well have picked up second place. Oh, and now there's some contact in the middle of the field.
That's De Graaf.
De Graaf's involved. He's spinning around. How did he get that far forward in the first place is one of the questions. It looks like everyone is going to get pointing back in the right direction and continue, but a real schmozzle there in the midfield. And that spread the pack a little bit, Andy, as they climb up towards the scorecard. And now there's another car spinning. That's Ursula Jordan who's spinning around. She's off on the grass as well. There you can see her. And there's another car also involved as well. Yeah, Jordan is frustrated. I think we can read into that. She's pointing at somebody. That's the number 19 car, Ollie Musgrave, that was the other car involved in all of that. So these wet conditions, Andy McEwen, certainly catching drivers out on the first lap. There's a big dent on Luke Evans' door as well.
Yes, I'm not sure from which incident that one came, but yeah, messy stuff. But we sometimes see this with reverse grid races, don't we? Edmonds now under threat here as they head through Peel Corner, loses a spot to Delisle, who, as you said, had that moment at the banking and is now starting to pick their way back up through the order. The leading group, though, exiting the final corner, very, very tightly bunched. It is still Adam Parker who leads, Lindsay in second position. Third place then for the number 95. That's Ben Siebold, who started fifth on the grid. There you can see him on the tail of Lindsay, and Matt Wilkins up into fourth position from 10th on the grid. Now, you asked how Don de Graaf got so far up the order. He had by far the best of the starts. He had gained about 3 places before he even got to turn 1. That sadly got him in trouble on the exit of turn number 2, whereas Wilkins had picked his way through it nicely.
I'm not sure he is in fourth. Looking at the positions on the track, we'll try and get a look at that. He's fourth on the timing screens, but we'll just try and work this out as they come through.
Yes.
The two leaders are heading through Church Corner nose to tail, and it is Kai Lindsay in the 374 car pushing Adam Parker hard. Fifth, we reckon, for Matt Wilkins, actually. So there must be someone with a transponder issue or something like that. But up the hill they go towards Rocket. And Kai Lindsay having a look up the inside of Adam Parker into Rocket Corner. And Parker goes a bit wide, but he'll have the inside line for the next element of the corner. And he holds on for the lead. It's Joe Jessup that's there now in third position as well. So he's already won a couple of races this season. He was the champion last year, so he's very much one to watch. He'll be challenging these two, but he's actually the one with no working transponder. That's rather confusing us. It's Ben Siebold fourth and Matt Wilkins in fifth position. So the two main championship contenders, Jessup and Wilkins, in third and fifth, respectively. And the rain is hard, and Kai Lindsay is spinning. And is he going to take someone out? He's into the side of Joe Jessup. Ben Siebold dodges around the outside of him. Jessup only got narrowly tagged there. He is still there, and he's now running in second position behind Adam Parker.
Yeah, well, yeah, that rain definitely catching people out. It is raining a lot more intensely now than it has at any point so far today. More side-by-side further back, and out onto the grass goes Borman. That was Don de Graaf fighting his way through on the inside line. So Don de Graaf with a bit of damage to the left front corner, but actually not too bad given the size of the contact that he had on that opening lap. Where is Don de Graaf? He is 8th at the end of that second lap of racing, so could still be on for a decent result here if he can stay out of trouble. But these conditions are becoming ever more treacherous now, and that limited amount of standing water that we were talking about at the start of the day is definitely increasing now as we move through this race. Joe Delgado there at the inside of Borman now into Church Corner, but the leaders, Ian, are right together.
Yeah, and it's Joe Jessup this time on the right-hand side of the circuit of Adam Parker, who's just about held on to the lead all the way through this race so far. Jessup trying to go around the outside of him, but that's not worked out for him. There's Ben Siebold just behind in third place as well. Matt Wilkins, yesterday's winner, right with them as well in fourth position. Looks like Jessup has actually lost a couple of lengths on Parker through the Rocket Complex, who's driving really well here, Adam Parker, to keep these drivers at bay. First four certainly have broken a bit of a gap to the rest. It's Richard Lindsay in fifth, I think, as we watch them come down through the corkscrew. They all get safely through here. There's quite a big puddle halfway down the corkscrew, which can catch drivers out, but certainly the drivers we're seeing here going through all navigating it safely. There's Joe McMullen. Oh, big moment, though, for Adam Parker on the exit of the corner. Does that give Jessup an opportunity up into target at the start of lap number 4? Has a look up the inside. He's not made it work yet, though.
No, the grip is on the outside, isn't it? Parker keeps his foot in it, holds on. Ben Siebold in third has the fastest lap as Jessup now launches to the inside into the banking, goes for the race lead. Will he have the traction on corner exit? Yes, just about. And Joe Jessup then goes to the front of the field, and that was an important move because Ben Siebold and Matt Wilkins were starting to close in on him from behind. So Jessup, the first of the, if you like, fancied front runners to make it to the front of the pack, but he's wide up the curb, look, coming out of Church Corner, flirting with disaster doing that in these conditions. Not quite as much as Richard Lindsay, though, who is completely off the road behind them.
Matt Wilkins is making good progress. Look, here he is alongside Ben Siebold now. Oh, and there's contact, and Siebold spins around. That delays Wilkins. Siebold off onto the grass. He got the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, and now he's on the grass up there on the approach to Rocket. Now that's going to be slippery and slidey to try and get out of. He's still stationary at the moment up at the top of the hill. So that's Siebold off the circuit. Wilkins delayed by that, but I think still holds what is now third place.
Yes, although I suspect that will be looked at after the race. That was not a good place to be making contact. Fastest part of the circuit. Thankfully, no more major damage done, and Siebold has now managed to get going again. So the yellow flags will be in by the time the leaders get there next time. So, what's the situation now? Well, it's Joe Jessup leading the way. It's still Adam Parker in second place. If he keeps out of trouble here, could still be on for a podium finish. Then Wilkins in third. A big gap back then to Delgado, who I think is... no, that's not Delgado. That is McMullen, sorry, who's up into fourth position. Fifth place then for Lindsay. Then Lee Rickard and Don de Graaf. So Don de Graaf is seventh place, 9.6 seconds off the race lead. But on the tail, essentially, of the battle for fourth, as Adam Parker throws away second place at the banking, runs up the hill and through, at least temporarily, will go Matt Wilkins.
Yeah, he's going to try and fight back though, but I think Wilkins is probably going to make this position his own. So you've got the two most fancied front runners in the championship now in first and second positions. Parker having dropped down to third place. It's seemingly unable to resist the pressure from the more fancied runners. He's got quite a bit of a gap though back to the car in fourth place, which is number 11, Joe McMullen. Richard Lindsay, 74, is fifth, and Don de Graaf now is up to sixth. He's got ahead of Lee Rickard on this lap already. There's, though, is Adam Parker, number 92, the 17-year-old, up at Rocket Corner, just tucked in behind the two leaders.
A bit wide behind them for Joseph McMullen, but he had about a second in hand over Richard Lindsay, so should be able to get away with that, hanging on to fourth position. So now the question is whether or not Matt Wilkins can catch Joe Jessup. At the start of the lap, he was 2 seconds behind Jessup, but of course hadn't overtaken Parker yet. Now he's into second place, though I don't think that's 2 seconds anymore, is it? Out wide goes Joe Jessup into the entry to the corkscrew, where everyone just seems a bit tentative, a bit reluctant to turn in too aggressively after some of the moments we had there earlier on, and that gap is visibly down to maybe only about a second or so. Let's see what the timing screen says. It is well, Jessup's time transponder isn't working. We'll get there in a minute. Lindsay, meanwhile, at the inside of McFarlane, who so far has stayed out of trouble in this race, but is still engaging in a pretty entertaining battle here outside the top 10.
Yeah, Kyle Lindsay, of course, was battling for the lead at one point, but now well down the order in 15th. Position, maybe about 14th now, actually, ahead of Andrew Edwin. But we've got 6 3/4 minutes of the race left to go, and McFarlane, who was spectacular yesterday, living up to that today. Kyle Lindsay trying to go around the outside of him. His car's looking a little bit battered and bruised from scars in this race, and now he throws it away at target. He does manage to keep it putting in more or less the right direction. So McFarlane's going to go back through to 13th position.
Oh, so easy, isn't it, to get that bit of lift-off oversteer in these conditions. And luckily, you can just plant your right foot down and power your way out of it. But obviously, that creates a bit of a scare for the cars behind. Now, this for the race lead. Joe Jessup has run wide at Rocket. And Matt Wilkins has a bit of an overlap. Doesn't have the traction on the inside line, though, exiting Rocket. And so Jessup hangs on. But can he defend for another 6 minutes? It seems rather unlikely, really, at the moment, doesn't it? Because he's under all sorts of pressure from Matt Wilkins behind as they come out of Peel Corner and head down the hill. Wilkins then having caught Joe Jessup. Where can he make his move? Look, he's exploring, trying to find some grit, trying to go where Jessup isn't going to try and find an advantage, as Adam Parker once again has a big slide in third place.
Yeah, 5 3/4 minutes to go. Leaders just going across the line again to complete lap number 6. Matt Wilkins was the fastest man on the circuit on the previous lap, and he, I think, still is, although they were both a bit slower that time around. And he now is getting it very sideways indeed as he's trying to challenge Joe Jessup. 3/4 of a second was the gap between them at the start of this lap. Parker third, McMullen fourth, Lindsay fifth, De Graaf in sixth, but only about 8/10 behind Richard Lindsay now, so he could improve another position. The driver that's third in the championship coming into this race, I should say, moved up a position yesterday. He's yet, though, I think, to go past the car that is in... no, he has gone past the car and up into fifth position, I beg your pardon. There, though, is Joe Jessup in the lead of the race, and that gap has increased since the start of the lap. It was 3/4 of a second. It now looks like considerably more than that, so possibly Matt Wilkins has made a bit of a mistake. There's another one. And, yeah, he has got into Rocket far too deep there now, turning his way, and if he's not careful, he's going to put himself back into the clutches of Adam Parker. He's perhaps just overdriving a little bit now.
Well, a lap ago, I would have put my money on Wilkins to win this race. He looked definitely the quicker of the two, but you're right, a couple of mistakes creeping in over this lap, and suddenly Joe Jessup could be off the hook. What's that gap that he's got? It's probably back over 2 seconds now as they drop down into the corkscrew, but Wilkins has caught him once. There's no reason why he won't be able to catch him again. Just needs to maybe stop overdriving ever so slightly. Got a slow car on the back straight though, Ian.
Yeah, is that James Delisle?
It is, yeah.
Slowly, yeah. He's the one that's dropped right to the back of the field. He's just pulling off onto the access road to catch the rescue unit drivers there, I think, who are stationed at that particular part of the circuit. Joe Jessup now in the lead of the race has done the best lap, a 1:31.6. For context, that's 11 seconds off yesterday's fastest lap set by Matt Wilkins. There's Don de Graaf, and he's actually still in, he's still in 6th place, isn't he? So he's not yet got past Richard Lindsay. 8/10 of a second, still the gap. He's ahead of Lee Rickard in the 26 car, but not yet ahead of Richard Lindsay in the number 74 car. And he's only got probably 3 more laps to try and make another place here.
Indeed so. It was a slow lap for Wilkins. Yes, it was a fastest lap for Jessup, but it was sort of paired with a slow lap for Wilkins. So I think that's why that gap has now extended to 2.5 seconds. There you can see them splashing their way into Rocket. You can see how Wilkins got it wrong there. A lap ago, there's a lot of standing water. McFarlane's off again. Not the first time we've said that today. And spins right in front of another car. That was, who was that? Was that Idwin, I think, that narrowly avoided T-boning Tom McFarlane. And that was a very, very lucky escape with a huge tank slapper coming out of turn 1. Miraculously, I think there was no contact and both cars able to continue.
These conditions aren't improving, are they? No. It is absolutely chucking it down here at Anglesey at the moment. It is forecast to stop raining at some point in the not too distant future, but I don't think it's going to affect the end of this race now. There's Adam Parker, number 92, still in 3rd position, looking for a podium here, which he'd be absolutely delighted by, I'm sure, with that new engine. Matt Wilkins briefly showing in the lead there, but that's because of the transponder issue for Joe Jessup. The gap has come down, though. Wilkins doing the best lap of the race, just a high 1:30 now, so just breaking into the 92nd mark. He's pulled further clear of Adam Parker as well, who in turn is about 6 seconds clear of Richard Lindsay. So 2 minutes of the race left to go. There is Parker, and there's Lindsay now with Don de Graaf behind him. Up into the banking, and there was the contact there. Lindsay certainly got sideways. De Graaf backed out of it and is still behind Richard Lindsay for 4th place. So it's Joe McMullen, I think, that's dropped back behind both of them, isn't it? He was in 4th place. He's now dropped back to 6th, but here's the race leader.
Well, I mean, what impressive pace that was from Matt Wilkins to set a new fastest lap as the conditions deteriorate, but he's on the curb going into Rocket and just about keeps the car on the road. I know sometimes full wet conditions can be quicker than sort of damp and greasy conditions, but this now looks very treacherous indeed, doesn't it? Wilkins and Jessup both spurring each other on. Don de Graaf, meanwhile, back up the inside of Richard Lindsay. This time cleanly gets the place away as they head through Rocket Corner. So that's 4th place now for de Graaf. Lindsay tries to get back up the inside, gives him a bit of a headbutt, maybe a bit of payback after that contact that they had up at the banking, but no harm done. Don de Graaf goes through into 4th position. We're about to start, disappointingly really, the final lap of the race though, Ian. Do we think that Joe Jessup's got this in hand? Quite possibly. As he crosses the line, there's also been a spin for there. That is Idwin off again, isn't it? Andrew Idwin, that's on the exit of Church Corner.
Gap almost exactly the same as it was on the previous lap between the two leaders, just about 1.8 seconds. Wilkins crept narrowly closer as Andrew Idwin recovers here. These are the two leaders out of the banking. 1.8 seconds sounds like a decent margin, but in these conditions, a mistake can be so costly. Jessup then holding on, looking to sort of match Wilkins win tally for the year. This will make it 3 apiece if Joe Jessup can hold it on. He's going through Church Corner for the final time. They're both safely through there, about to head past the school building up towards the left-hander at Rocket for the final time in this race. Just now got to eliminate mistakes, Joe Jessup, and he'll win this race. There's Wilkins.
Jessup's gone wide though.
He has, yes, just out of shot. Jessup had gone wide. Wilkins now right on his tail.
Yes, he is. Nose to tail then out of Rocket Corner. So was that a costly mistake for Jessup, or will he be able to keep hold of the lead? Into Peel Corner they go. Wilkins will be definitely incentivised to try and get this place. He knows that this could be significant for the championship come the end of the season, but he's running out of opportunities. Down towards the corkscrew for the final time. Wilkins going to the outside line. Can he carry the speed round the outside? They splash their way down the hill. Look at the state of the track. It is absolutely flooded as they come down through the corkscrew. Sideways for Jessup. He's leading into the last corner. Ian, can he hang on?
Well, it could be a run to the line. It's not a very long run here, though. They both splash through the puddles. Over the curbs they go, and then nose to tail over the line. Joe Jessup taking the win. The gap, 0.2 of a second between them in the end. A fantastic final lap of the race. A mistake from Joe Jessup at Rocket, but nevertheless he managed to hold on. Look how wet this circuit is now. Adam Parker, a fine result for him. He comes home in 3rd place. Don de Graaf, after spinning most of the way down the pack, takes 4th. Richard Lindsay 5th. Joe McMullen 6th. Lee Rickard is 7th. Trafford King, we didn't really mention him too much, but he had to come through from the back of the grid. Oh, and look at that, Luke Emmons. He's had a big accident right at the end of the race. He's gone nose on into the barriers, and that is an odd place to go off. That's at the corkscrew.
But we've seen so many people getting it wrong there in this race, because these cars are prone to that oversteer as you turn in, but that almost looks like he's just gone straight on. It's very early in the corner that he's gone off, and that is a fairly big hit. So the marshal's running over to check that he's okay, but for those that did manage to keep it on the island at the end, particularly whilst battling so hard, Joe Jessup and Matt Wilkins, that's one of the best displays of driving that I've seen in a long time, in atrocious conditions. Not only did they keep it on the track, but they kept on fighting to the flag, and there was only 0.2 between them at the line. Brilliant.
No, great racing in really horrible conditions, and one or two drivers unfortunately have fallen victim to those. I think last few cars still coming over the line. That's going to be Tom McFarlane getting ahead of Andrew Idwin after Andrew Idwin's late spin. So they're 14th and 15th. Those are going to be the final finishers. Ross Borman, he's on his slowing down lap. I'm not sure we can see very much out of that car, but a combination of the windows steaming up and the spray and the sort of light. I mean, it is quite bright out there. It seems strange to say. There is a definite sort of lightness in the air, which makes it a little bit more difficult to see. Let's have a look at the results of that race, though. 10 laps were completed by Joe Jessup in those extremely difficult conditions in just over 15.5 minutes, and he finished 0.231 seconds clear of Matt Wilkins in 2nd place. 3rd place to number 92, Adam Parker. 4th to number 15, Don de Graaf. In 5th place was number 74, Richard Lindsay. 6th was number 11, Joe McMullen. Then it was Lee Rickard in 7th, Trafford King in 8th, Joe Dalgarno in 9th, Ross Borman rounding out the top 10. Then Ollie Musgrave, Ben Siebold, Kyle Lindsay and Tom McFarlane. Just one other finisher. That was in 15th place, Andrew Idwin, with Luke Evans, unfortunately there into the barriers on the final lap of the race. And James Delisle rounding out the field in those that started the race in a non-finisher, but actually there's one more, wasn't there? Ursula Jordan in 18th place. So those were the Type R Trophy cars. They're back out again a little bit later on this afternoon, and we're going to head down now to Parc Fermé. Kieran Mogg, rather him than me in these conditions. He's out there in the rain.
Well, I hope you guys are enjoying your nice, warm, and more importantly, dry commentary box, because out here it is absolutely torrential. But we're going to speak to our race winner, Joe. That was, get onto here for you. Yeah, sure. That was absolutely mental out there.
Oh, it's crazy. It was crazy. So it was sort of all right at the beginning, and then the rain started to come down, kept losing it up to the sort of last corner up the hill. I could see Matt catching me up there big time, and then I sort of just tried to stay on the track and just keep the gap and come home for the win.
It looked like a lot of drivers had a lot of trouble staying on the track. Is it difficult to keep it on the black stuff in this car?
Yeah, I mean it is. It is. So it sort of aquaplanes down the straights and things like that. So you've just got to be careful with it. But the boys at DH Racing and Danny, they've been working on it so hard this weekend, so it's great to bring back a win for them.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations and good luck later.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. We'll speak to our second place, Matt Wilkins. Matt, you were really pushing there. Nobody can take that from you at all.
Yeah, it was a tricky race, real tricky conditions. Got worse through the race, but I'm happy with that from 10th.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I noticed as well is that a lot of drivers are taking all sorts of different lines. In the wet, the outside line tends to be at the sort of advised line, but a lot of drivers are also taking the inside line. Did you find that one sort of worked over the other?
I found the racing line still had a bit of grip, but it's just locking up into the corners happened a lot. You know, it was pretty tricky. Tricky conditions. Quite a lot of damage again, unfortunately, but it's the weather conditions.
Do you think you could possibly take the fight for the win later?
Yeah, should be good starting P2, so all good.
Look forward to seeing it then.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much. And we'll speak to our third place man, Adam Parker. Adam, you had to fight for that one. Obviously, a bit of a battle with Matt as well. How was it out there?
Very wet, but it was fun. You'd be sideways on most corners, but holding it and keeping it there was the funnest part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the rain started to really heavily come down as well.
Yeah.
Was it getting gradually more and more difficult to keep it on the track?
Yeah, so even on the straight, you'd be holding it sideways, trying to get the acceleration down, and you'd be two gears higher than normal to even get the acceleration down what we were spinning. So yeah, it was a lot harder than normal.
Well, absolutely. Well, how are you looking forward to the race later? Do you think you can possibly take the fight to the top two?
I'd like to, but we'll see. We'll find out, I guess.
Look forward to seeing it then.
Yep, no problem, thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyway, we've got the minis coming up next. The rain has momentarily sort of subsided, but we're going to a quick ad break, and then minis coming up next. Don't go anywhere.